think it's important to know, just how Cboe is competing and where you're going in the marketplace. But let's jump right in because we got a lot of data to share, and I know that's what everyone is here for. So before we can talk about the comparisons of NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, I want to just set the foundational requirements because everyone knows if you're going to list, whether that's an uplist, a cross list from a foreign jurisdiction, or a microcap IPO, you have to meet a lot of qualitative and quantitative requirements. The four most important in our view, we call the core four. Generally, if you can meet these four criteria, the rest will fall in place. But these are the four criteria that give lawyers, bankers, working groups, exchanges the most fits. And I'm going to run through these very quickly because I want to get to the differences and some of the new interpretations. So shareholders' equity, I think, is pretty simple. Everyone knows you got to have about $4 or $5 million, depending on the exchange. Share price is either $3 or $4, depending if you're on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ or Cboe. Number of shareholders, you need to have certain round lot shareholders, and then a public float of 15 million. Those are the core four requirements. If you're a company looking to list, uplist, IPO, cross-list, these are the core four requirements you need to have. And Erik, when you guys got approved last year in June 2023 to be the third major exchange, how did you guys come up with these? Because, on their face, they look very similar to NASDAQ, and I know we're going to talk about some of the differences, under the surface, they're quite different. But just tell us about your thinking about, you had a blank space. How did you come up with these?
So the U.S. business took a bit of inspiration from a lot of other spots in our ecosystem. But if you look at the pathways companies are taking to get public, you need a sleeve to help each company navigate their pathway, whether they're pre-revenue, they're in their growth stage, maybe they have a lot of debt, but they have revenues in their business. Having optionality for companies to get to public markets is actually a very critical part of it. Think about a biopharma company. No revenue yet, working on ideas, need to find a pathway to raise capital from investors to fund that research. There's got to be a way. So the equity requirement, the one that's on display in front of you here, gives pre-revenue, really exciting businesses ultimately a pathway to get public. Key for us is we didn't want to take an opinion on industry or sector. So we boil this down to four different pathways, different types of companies can take to get to us. And then we start looking at geography, economy, country, scale in business. And our Canadian business, lower requirements versus the US. The US, we've got peers to look at. And here we wanted to take a look, see what would be competitive, what would be helpful. And frankly, we also don't want to cause confusion for the working group that are already working on getting deals out. So portability, ease of use, predictability as a marketplace are all things that we wanted to gear off of when creating our initial listings.
And I would add user-friendliness.
That's a good one. That's a very
user-friendliness. From someone who works in the trenches daily with numerous company, investment banks, investors, buy-side, sell-side, user-friendliness is a very, very important. Doesn't mean we're always right. Doesn't mean we always agree. It just means that the exchange needs to stay user-friendly.